C.R.P.H.A. I have been pretty busy with a lot of things. I can tell you the reason why I haven't made another video, like I said, between Saturday or Friday of even last week. But here I am. And I will try to better schedule it the next time around. The topic is, of course, on and about Nancy Pelosi and the liberal idiot Democrats, along with Gavin Newsom. And also a new topic, which would be about a particular person that he considers him to be a professional at broadcasting, and and possibly many of you, if not all of you, or a certain percentage of you, however, whatever the case may be, even the ones I have not mentioned. May know him. He has a YouTube setup known as GABnet. My mother's friend watches him more than periodically. The dude's is completely not professional. I can tell you that because I've seen a number of his things that my mother's friend watches, and he doesn't let any one of the people that he has on the show be via their own webcam and microphone. He doesn't let them finish what they were about to say. He always interrupts, which basically makes it to where he's more than deeply insecure, and his wife would basically say he's completely insecure, inconsiderate, a socialist kiss ass, a socialist liberal kiss ass, and generally he's not very confident within himself. But yet he considers GABnet, his production of GABnet, professional broadcasting. A professional broadcaster does not interrupt and cut off a person when they're not finished saying anything. A professional broadcaster doesn't have lack of self-esteem and confidence within themselves. But of course, at the same time, a professional broadcaster does not act like he's a Mr. Know-it-all either. Professional broadcaster has more confidence in self-assuredness than the particular person known as Alex Bennett, I believe his name would be at this point, and yet he still considers his broadcasting to be professional, and it's not. So if Alex Bennett of GABnet is watching this, I'm telling you the truth. You're not a professional broadcasting person. You do not know anything of anything. You want to spout out anything about politics? Go do it on your own computer that people that have the same mindset and the general basic and unsureness that you do, and non-self-confidence that you do, Alex Bennett, and the ones that also would cut off you as you cut off many other people, Alex Bennett of GABnet. Professional broadcasting people are Dr. Phil, Steve Harvey, Maury Povich, even though Maury Povich is more of a drama thing. You are the father. You are not the father, among other things. And And so Alex Bennett cannot say that he has professional broadcasting because he doesn't know the meaning of it. Plus, he doesn't have any professionalism within himself because he thinks he knows it all. He thinks he knows more than the entire population of this country or this planet, for that matter, and he doesn't. He's not God. Even though I know if you were to if you were to bring that up to him, I'm like, yeah, I'm God. I know more than you do, you idiot. I don't even proclaim to know everything. I just inform the general public, even in social media, that of what I know and what I have researched, whatnot. I may also put in a good points here and there, or maybe as I talk about it. But the one thing is that I'm not gonna proclaim that I'm someone I'm not. There is only one spiritual being, and he is the very creator that created us, this planet, the universe, the whole entire galaxy, along with our Savior's help, being Jesus Christ, of course. And I know many of you will say amen to that, which is good. Now, getting back to the topic at hand. The one topic I will say is that, okay, we have now Gavin Newsom as California governor. I recently, um, I'd say maybe about a week ago, I wrote to him concerning the fact that, okay, the rents in California are going completely out of hand, completely out of control. About 73% the last I saw was in the Facebook post of KGO Channel 7, the Bay Area news state, one of the Bay Area news stations, which is a liberal socialist news station. I never used to think that, but now I do. Well, not really now exactly, but anyway, they reported that about 73%, starting from the Bay Area itself, be of course starting from the city of Frisco on through. About 73% are saying that they are planning to leave the state of California. About a percentage before Gavin Newsom became the head honcho, the governor of the state, a percentage at least about between 30 to 40% in the percentage aspect right there. Like it could have been like 47, 45, 43, or 36, 37, whatever. But already have left or have planned to leave, according to other aspects as well. And I'd say while Obama was in office, a number of people left California already. And when even Clinton was in office, a number of people left California. And even before and during the campaign between Trump and Hillary, a number of people left California, and it was due to the fact, again, not because of the presidential aspect of things when it comes to Trump or Hillary, because nobody was really established as a president then, even at that point. But a number of people have left the state of California. A number of people have also left the whole entire United States. And how I found that out is by watching a particular program on YouTube, where a number of people that were in the U.S. are in like Paris, France, among other overseas areas. And that was even before George H.W. Bush and before. Actually, no. It was actually before. Yeah, it was before George H.W. Bush's son, George W. Bush, and before Clinton, and of course a bit during Clinton's administration, um, have left the United States and various states beyond that, or along with that, actually, I should say. And now, with the fact that people are used to the Democratic, and I'm still, it's sad to know that that a certain percentage, I'm not going to say the percentage, but the certain percentage are still on the Democratic thinking of, oh, this should not be done this way, or this should not be done the way it's being done when it comes to the base of what Trump is doing. Trump is not doing anything out of sort in reality. Trump is not doing anything out of malice or anything for that matter. He's doing something within the Constitution, within the logic aspect of things. And yet, not many of the citizens of the U.S. are used to that. They're used to the liberals having control. They're used to the liberals BSing their way through shit, and telling the American people a lot of BS that they don't intend to keep. As I mentioned to Gavin Newsom, that when it comes to the Liberal Party, even when it comes to the presidential aspect of things, okay, is that is that there's a lot of promises being said even before the liberal idiot becomes president, and not one, not one has been established and put into action, that would basically benefit the U.S. and the American people. Because after JFK, as I've said many times before, that the liberal Democrats of today, even of the 1990s, don't give a damn about the United States of America. They don't give a damn about the American people. They don't give a damn about the youth. Case in point, Jerry Brown with the Prop 39 thing that he advertised for school funding. Then he went behind closed doors and changed it to his high tax plan, which basically he was only concerned about what he wanted. He didn't give a damn about our youth in the state of California, and he didn't give a damn about the American people starting within California, the California citizens. Therefore, the Democrats are a load of shit. They can spout all the promises that they want and that sound true and so positive, but I pray and pray every day. Yes, because I'm a Mormon, and that's my choice, my spiritual choice. I will not go against anybody's religious or non-religious beliefs. And even if you are an atheist, I'm not going to go against that. That's your right. That's your God-given right, and I will support that. Even if you are not, even if you are not the same religion as I am, I will still support it, even though I may not follow it. But I respect every religion regardless. Doesn't matter what religion it is, even if it is the religion of those countries overseas. But as long as it doesn't harm people or yourself for any reason, I can say, and I will say, that I will support, that I do support it. But the basic fact is, the only liberal one that I supported, because I got to know more about him, even though he was assassinated many years before I was even born, is John Franklin Kennedy. He was assassinated during his during his during the aspect of his possible second term, although it wasn't officially his second term at that point. He campaigned for his second term, and before the campaigning was to full completion, way before. I'm not going to say exactly how far exactly, but nonetheless, while he was still campaigning. I believe he was going through something like San Antonio, Texas, or something, right? And he was assassinated. He was shot from a distance, and there's many speculations of where the bullet may have come from, where it hit a certain part of his back of his skull here, you know, from the direction that it came. But the one thing is, nobody's really conclusively sure. I mean, you'd have to be the bullet yourself to know for sure. If you want to put it jokingly, but the basic fact is you need to know the geometrics and various other things. But none outside of that, um, I have found that John Franklin Kennedy was a Democrat, grant, but then back then it was not connected to any liberal faction. And yes, they did do one thing with him in office that they found to be best for this country. It shaped it in some way or another. But the one thing is, according to one particular classmate that I had, in a computer class, she claims that the Democrats did many good things for this country for 100 years, and yet 100 years, I approached her again and told her, I go, how that you said that the Democrats did good for this country for 100 years, right? And she said, yeah. Well, 100 years ago there was no, and I said 100 years ago there was no, um, you know, political, you know, there was no actual political party sanctioned or set up as a political, you know, stature or whatever in that sense, and she just walked away like this. The basic fact is she didn't like the fact that I said what I said, being the truth, because 100 years ago, even possibly even more than 100 years ago now, there were more people in favor for the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. I'd say again more than 100 years ago, the Democratic Party was practically non-existent because the number of people that were for the Democratic Party was a very small percent or number, or basically both. There were more people for the Republicans than there were for the Democrats. Maybe you could say that they could have seen in their own way, in their own manner, they could have seen the future of both parties. That the Republicans essentially would be doing what's best for this country, in case, with the base of course, Trump is doing what's best for this country and the American people and our youth. And the fact, on the aspect of the Democratic Party, the Democratic Party was practically, again, like I said, non-existent, because there was a very small number of people back more than 100 years ago now. To this point, would be more than 100 years ago, and they could have seen the reason being is because the Democratic Party of the 1990s and the general millennium are only about things for themselves. They're not really for the American people. They're not really about and for this country, even though the liberal Democrats will try to say that they are, when they're really not. Because the liberal Democratic Party wants to change this country from what our forefathers made it, how they made it. The liberal Democratic Party of today wants to socialize, turn this whole entire country socialistic, to where our freedoms and rights and the general original Constitution is gone. So therefore, we would have to kiss their ass in order to get what we want, in the sense of the freedom and rights aspect. No American person will ever bow down to that. This is not the Roman days of England. This is not, it will not be the Roman days of England, even though I know that liberal Democrats would try to make it as such, but to where they have full reign and control over us as if we are their slaves and minions or whatever. But the basic fact is, they won't admit to that, even if you were to ask them that. Even if you even if the liberal media or media in general were to bring that up, they'd deny it full-heartedly. And I know Alex Bennett of GABNet will deny, try to attack that aspect and any other aspect I said against the Democrats, which is basically the truth of what I said when it comes to the Democrats. Okay, back on the base of Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom was a moderate Republican, as many people who watch my videos have heard me say this before. And with the fact that Gavin Newsom was a moderate Republican mayor of San Francisco, California, um, he, for some stupid reason, decides to switch over to a party that has the mindset of a complete zombie. Being that they are brain dead, idiot political party. And with that, they have a liberal bitch known as Nancy Pelosi. Well, they got many liberal bitches known as Nancy Pelosi, Barbara Boxer, Dianne Feinstein, just to name a few. And now they have also Kamala Harris, the other liberal bitch, who has not really solved anything when it comes to the racial aspect that she was accused of while campaigning for president. And it's still factual if Kamala Harris ever will take the more than the hint. And any other liberal bitch out there that is trying to run for president, even from other states, that this country is not yet ready for a female president. Now, the one thing again, I'm gonna stress this. I believe that every woman can do many, many things equal to men on any level. I've always believed that ever since I was a teenager. Although when you can't really say that of a younger than a teenager because they're still learning. You know what I mean? But they still have respect for both sides. The base of it, in the aspect of a child's innocence. But it's true though. I did have, and I still do have the strong belief and support that of the fact that I believe that women can do just as much as men on any level, on anything. Doesn't matter what it is. But the one thing is, women go by emotion. There's nothing wrong with that. But when it comes to various things that presidents have dealt with in this country's history, and yes, most of them were men, but many things that this country's dealt with through the presidential aspect of things to start with are more than any woman would be willing to handle. And as Obama tried to proclaim in the feminist aspect of things, oh, we'll just talk to them. They'll be okay. Well, they'll be agreeable. We'll be able to talk and everything will be hunky dory. That's a load of shit. That's non-reality. As far as the other countries are concerned, we're the idiots. They should be the higher power. But that's according to other countries. That case in point, Kim Jong Un. He wants to be the higher power, higher power, just as many countries see the U.S. as even currently. And I know I've said this once before at most, is that if we had a female president, we'd be considered the weak idiots, weak asses essentially of the century, the weak asses of the millennium, by allowing a woman to tell us how things are going to go in the presidential aspect when it comes to the safety and security of the American people and the safety and security of this country and the future for both and our youth especially. I'm looking at it from the outside aspect of what the other leaders of other countries will see it. Even our own allies may see it that way. They have not said anything, but because it hasn't happened yet, now has it? But when and if it does, when generally this whole entire country and also the whole entire globe as a whole, if you want to put it that way, is not sufficiently logically ready for. There's it has nothing to do with sexism. It has nothing to do with of any hypocrisy or anything else for that matter. It has nothing to do with the because they're women or whatever the hell else. I'm being straight honest with you, and I know many women are watching this. I'm being honest with you. I will never ever lie to one human being. When I know something to be true, I will say it. When I know something to be a load of shit, believe me, I'll take it. You can hate me or like me, I don't care. But hey, you will eventually find that I am telling you the truth. Even if I were to tell you that I have children, I want the best for them. I want the best for every child in this country, in this whole entire globe. But there are many shall we say TV ads and radio ads and online ads that are complete scams, such as this is an important message from the church, you know, you know what I'm talking about, and it has to do with the people from I think it was like Jerusalem or something, but nonetheless, it's a scam. There are many people who are really out for themselves, and that's basically one of them. And also, sadly enough, it's the same when it comes to our the animals such as cats and dogs, among other animals, in wildlife, especially. They all try to claim that they're legit and all this, but they're really not. So don't fall. I ask you, do not fall for it, and do not waste your hard-earned cash on sending them any amounts of money, even through your credit cards. Anyway, Gavin Newsom is now our governor, as many people know now. And he has yet still to do things that are positive. He's lagging, much like Jerry Brown did in his first and second term. Jerry Brown did a larger percentage of things that were only beneficial for his party and for him. It didn't benefit It didn't benefit the youth. It didn't benefit the American people, being the youth's parents in the state of California. It didn't benefit the state. Case in point, the high tax plan that I mentioned, Prop 39. He first announced that he wanted to do the high tax plan, put out the high tax plan, his high tax plan essentially, and he said it would be beneficial for this state of California. The reality is that it would be pushing out businesses to where there's no aspect of employment in the state of California. It's almost like that he was setting up California to be a slave reign for the liberal Democrats to use the citizens of California as slaves with chains around their things around their necks and chains, and generally the minion aspect as well. That might be a bit overbearing, but hey, it's generally, if you really think about it, it's the exact aspect. The high tax plan was, he claimed, hey, it's going to support California and it's going to help California in the long run. And yet, instead, before, to start with, before it became law, it made it to where the corporate office of Jack in the Box and Carl's Jr., in which Carl's Jr. started in Anaheim, California. That those corporate offices went right from California right over to Texas because they reenacted it as if it was actually in law. First off, and I know I mentioned this before, but I'm telling you again, they reenacted it as if it was in law when really it wasn't at that point. They looked at their finances. They looked at the financial stature. Would they be able to afford to open one, if not many, a certain number of the many franchises within the state of California to start with? Even if they had to build them, would they be able to afford it? And this was again as they reenacted as if the high tax plan was in law already, even though in reality aspects it wasn't. If you get my meaning. And they found that they would lose out more than they would think, even even as they reenacted it. They kind of looked at the geometrics and scales and such like that, right? Way too costly. So what did they do instead? They could have easily closed the corporate offices where they're at and moved over to Texas, along with closing a large percentage of the restaurants all across the state of California and moved them to Texas and the other states that are more affordable and cost effective, which would mean the franchisees are that are supporting the name and the brand and everything would have to move over to Texas and other states as well. But they didn't do that part of it. All they did was they moved their corporate office operation to Texas. The buildings are still bare if they're not already being used at this point, but they were bare when they moved on the level that they were, or if they weren't in the entire building. And a number of businesses besides Mervin's went completely under, and a number of businesses even outside of the going under aspect um, went out of California as well. One of them being Hershey, one of them being Wonder Bread went completely under. One and Hostess went under. Later, of course, later on, about a number of years ahead, beyond that point, the Hostess Twinkies part of the company was bought. J.C. Penney's is struggling even more now. Many other companies, even small businesses, went completely gone. One of them being Pallet the Sport Shop and Toy World. Pallet the Sport Shop and Toy World was a just a one store company and retail. Pallet the Sport Shop and Toy World at one point was only Pallet the Sport Shop in 1930. They relocated from what is now known as and which is probably still known as the Town and Country Village in Palo Alto on Emerson and El Camino in Palo Alto, California. And then they relocated over to Waverly, between Waverly and University and I can't think of the other name of the other street, but at this point, but it'll come to me eventually, possibly. If I'm still doing while I'm still doing this video, it might, but who's to say? But anyways, it relocated into that. It went into a one section store because the old building, the old brick building, cement brick building, had three sections on the bottom. One was a sports shop, one was something else, and one was something else. Much like the businesses are in Town and Country, among other places, in locations and areas. Even if there were a one level aspect. But this was a two level. And eventually, as years went by, the other two stores that were alongside, operating alongside the sports shop, went under for various different reasons. Well, essentially, they closed for various different reasons. This was around 1930, 1940, and beyond. By 1980, by the 1980s, essentially, the family-owned Pelosi Sports Shop eventually expanded to a toy shop. They had, I believe the toy shop was in Fremont. This was during the Reagan administration. The the toy shop was doing fairly well at first, and the sports shop in Palo Alto was doing seasonal well, I'm sure, if not well beyond the season. With duck hunting and fishing and everything. Get a laugh out of them. But anyway, they did fairly well on their own merit. But eventually, things got tougher on the toy shop part, much more than it did for the sports shop part, if at all, for the sports shop part. And it wasn't due to the Reagan administration. It was due to various other things. Even though around the 1980s, Selena, the famous singer that was shot by a little psychotic bitch, be that of course which was her fan club manager, that even duped the fans of various things along the way, and she had a record of doing that with other companies that her father, Selena's father, did not know. But I'm not going to place blame. He didn't know. That's an understandable human aspect. Not many think to have a background check aspect, which is understandable even for the time. I respect Selena's father, and I respect Selena. And I do, and it's a sad thing that Selena was shot because of a stupid little psychotic bitch. Anyway, Selena's father, according to the movie, which I know many of you possibly watched, about the movie on Selena that Jennifer Lopez, put out as where she played the part of Selena. And of course, they had a woman that played the part of the psychotic bitch. And they had a person play the part of her sister, which I don't know if it was her real sister or not. And I don't know if the actor that played her, part of her group, being her brother and one of her brothers and the soon-to-be husband at the time. But nonetheless, her father opened a restaurant. It was doing good for a while. That's according to the movie. And it was Papagayos or something, or Papayoyos. Anyway, whichever the name, but it was doing good. And then suddenly they hit more than a large stump somewhere financially. According to the movie. And of course, Selena's mother's friend mentioned Reaganomics. There are many things that do happen, though, that even the presidential part of the whole entire aspect of things cannot control. They can maybe try to circumvent them to a percentage, even a moderate to small, if not a certain larger percentage, but they only can do so much to prevent it from happening again. But the one thing is that whatever may have happened in between on their half of the business aspect is not fully Reaganomics. Things do happen. Costs happen. They could have easily gone through a different supplier, but they may have had a contract with the supplier that they were using, which basically had it to where they went under. That again, not their fault. They they thought they were going okay, so they went went with it. Many companies go that way even today. But there has to be a point to where you have a second option of a supplier. You can still do this, and then suddenly if something along the way seems a little sketchy, then and if the other that same uh, long-time supplier is not willing to budge even to a minuscule aspect, then cut the whole thing off. Go to a different that will be more than flexible and still stays within the health aspect. This way, you wouldn't really lose much because the more you use whatever's left of that one supplier, and then use what is sent of the new supplier, then everything should be on the up and up, and of course, it would gradually be able to expand, but not as fast as say Starbucks or any other um eatery or cafe or whatever. Things happen at a variable aspect and level. Even then, in the financial things of the financial way of things, actually, where things may seem a little hard to muster. But again, I'm not placing blame on Selena's father or her mother because they were going to what they knew. It was their first try in the business. That's again according to the movie. And even if it did happen, but I'm being honest about what I said in the business aspect. Who's to say they're in business even with Selena's fashion um, boutique that opened before she was shot? Who's to say what happened with that? Or if anything happened with that even after she was shot, if they closed it, went out of business due to it, or what? Who's to say? But getting back onto the aspect of the sports shop eventually was able to expand. Was essentially able to expand from one Kit Kat type of thing to maybe what you call a Hershey bar or a good bar type of thing. Then when they were able to get enough money to widen it even further to the very final wall, to where they were able to manipulate two doors and right in the center turn middle door into a window thing, the middle, and then which would essentially extended the office space up on the top level, on the second level. From that point on, things were going good. Aside, there may have been a little rough edges, but hey, they dealt with it. They went through. They succeeded. Even during the Bush administration, the Clinton administration, the Bush administration, the Obama administration. But near the end of the Obama administration is when things started going. But in between the Reagan administration and the Bush administration, if not just in between, somewhere near the latter part of the Reagan administration, they moved everything out of that one building in Fremont of the toy shop into the sports shop, which later was renamed as Pelton Sports Shop and Toy World. The "and" part was over here, above the toy part, the Toy World part. And even beyond that point, they were doing fairly well. And then they became a bit more than fairly well. I am more than lucky enough to get to know them as and when I did, those who started it and those who worked in there for as long as they have, and when they did. In fact, I'm friends with at least a certain number of them still. But then getting back onto that aspect is that it's because of the high tax plan that Jerry Brown essentially put forth through going through a legislative loophole by changing the school funding, which what he advertised for as Prop 39 for our youth school funding, and he went behind closed doors, changed it from the school funding, the California school funding, to his high tax plan. And I know I have mentioned this before. But Gavin Newsom has not done the logical thing, and which is take down the high tax plan, yet and reestablish the Prop 39 school funding. You may wonder if he knows how to do that, or if he's really truly willing to do that, seeing that he's changed parties from being a moderate Republican to a complete socialist, idiot, liberal Democrat. And of course, with the fact that the cost of rents, among other things, is going completely haywire in the state of California. You wonder if he's really willing to put into action something to where things are more stabilized in the realistic and logical aspect of things, to where the rents will go back down to the base of affordability. The ones that are going crazy up would go back down to the base of affordability, even while there's more and more of lower logical income apartment complexes being put into reality. There's only two that I know of to start with. One in Roseville, one out in Sacramento, near El Camino and Watt, on the base of Butano. One's in Roseville. Two other low income aspects are in Mountain View. One's on the El Camino, and one's down off of San Antonio Road. One, there might be a few others, but not in the base of Frisco. Though right now is there. If there is, fine. But there's a reality of things that need to be put into place, and that means more low income apartments that would more than suffice for those who are on supplemental security incomes, fixed incomes, low paid incomes aspect, low incomes in the sense of even employment is the meaning. Retirement income. And in a number of the retirement facilities, or shall we say, apartments, are way too much. Even for those that are on supplemental security retirement aspects, they don't care, do they? Because if they did, they'd make it more substantial, more than substantial even. Actually more than substantial, and more on the affordable aspect of where, okay, how much will you be able to pay? Will you be able to pay 400, 500, 650, 745? And we will do our best to keep it that way. But the best better be more than a saying. Other than that, keep it at between 500 and 600 or 400, and between 3 to 500, essentially at the most. But are they doing that for retirement communities such as the Sierra Sunrise on Manzanita and Carmichael, California, among other places such as Eschaton? I know there's several others, but you get my point. And the basic fact is that along with that, outside of the retirement aspect of senior living, and the ones that are independent and trying to survive even while raising families, even while single especially, or even newly married for that matter, or newly single, even after a divorce especially, the rents are still going fucking way out of fucking control. Even HUD, it's said that even HUD is being forced into this crazy shit by completely, instead of being supportive on the low income aspect of helping people get a low income place of living, they're being forced to go along with this crazy shit. It's said. But the person I know that has said this, she looked it up, and who I'm not going to say. But I trust what many people say. But the one thing is, not all things, not all things are trustworthy that people say or even claim. Of course, when it comes to claiming and saying, that would be of not trusting. It would be falling into the aspect of the liberal party known as the liberal Democrats. Gavin Newsom hasn't done anything even on the aspect of that yet, now has he? To where things are a lot more stabilized. And I mean realistically, logically stabilized, not just, oh yeah, they are stabilized and yet things are still going crazy as fuck. That's been more than known to happen in any administration, state government, or other. Many of you, many if not all of you, don't realize this. Those who truly know about this will understand why I am saying this and informing those of you who even are unaware. And it's possibly a good thing that it's possibly a good thing for many that know this. It's glad that they're probably more than glad that someone's actually talking about it. For a good reason, too. Now, one basic fact. If Gavin Newsom was able to do something before things went completely out of hand, I mean, to where there was no way to control it, which seems to be almost near that, then maybe things would be gradually put down to the points to afford more than affordability. Even with those apartment complexes that are too damn expensive for even people who trying to make a decent living for themselves, and as well as trying to raise families and raise and take care of their own families, and also those who are trying to make a living and decent living for themselves, even while divorced or widowed or single, even after a divorce, or newly single and newly independently, yes, on the new independent aspect of things, and among other things. Yes, California is the tourist attraction in many avenues, many levels, for many reasons. Not only the bridges, and not only areas of Hollywood and various other things. But the one thing is, it will it will continue to be that way if things get back into control, to where things are a lot more affordable for those who are living in the state of California. Those who are being educated in the state of California, being our youth, and so on with that. As I've said before, if things do not go back into the points of realistic, logical control, to where things are a lot more than affordable, even to that aspect, and to where things are more leveled, to where they're not completely going out of hand, even beyond that, then guess what? If things don't, and things start going even more than out of hand, and I've said this before, that percentage that Gavin Newsom doesn't realize, besides the 73% that I mentioned on the letter that I wrote to him, it will go even higher. Not and not only in the Bay Area. It will go higher in Sacramento City and County, Yuba City and County, Elk Grove, the whole enchilada, the whole LA City and County, the Anaheim, the whole every part of the state, even Alameda, among others. every part that would be added on to, which basically would mean every part of the state, city, and counties within the state of California will be completely like ghost towns, like the Old West has been known to be shown in episodes, sitcoms, old sitcoms, 1950s and 60s type of sitcoms to start with, and like on 70s sitcoms such as the Brady Bunch, for example, as the Old West, where it's all deserted. That's the way the state of California will be like if things continuously go out of hand, especially when it comes to the affordability aspect of rents, mortgages, and various other things. So Gavin Newsom has to do something fast and quit sitting on his ass wondering what to do next. I am a very passionate person about many different things, and that's one of them. Including when it comes to the aspect of that, it will be even hard. The rents even today are making it harder for people who are independently on social security incomes, such as the developmentally disabled and handicapped and diagnosed disabled, and also those who are mentally retarded, living in group homes, among other things. Yes, I'm an advocate for the disabled and diagnosed disabled and handicapped and various others. Yes. Yes, I'm an advocate for our youth's education and their futures as well. Yes. As well as every other person's future besides my own. I'm not gonna put myself out of the equation. Every parent wants what's best for their child, and I more than understand that. And that's another reason why I'm doing this, not only for the general base of the population of this country and the state of California, among other states. I'm telling it as it is. What what the whole aspect of reality and logic goes into and has gone into for quite a number of lifetimes. It doesn't matter who it is. It's still it still counts. Those who are unaware that this is a long thing, I apologize, but the one thing is that I have a lot to say. When I do these videos, I will have a good number of things to say. And sometimes it'll extend longer than you expect. Because I am a very passionate person, for one. I believe that everybody has the right to know everything that even comes to mind. That people have a right to know. Now, Gavin Newsom has until the last part of April to put something into action. He had longer than that, to about a month, about 2 months ago, if not a month and a half ago. He hasn't done diddly squat yet. Hopefully that he doesn't just twiddle his thumbs like the Democrats are known to do on most occasions and many other things. You can tell that I care about everybody on in this planet, every one of Heavenly Father's children, every one of the American people. But again, I'm still going to support Trump, and I still say Trump for 2020. And I still stand by what I said about the base that this country is not ready even in this lifetime, and even in this century, this country is not ready for a female president. But again, I still stand by the fact that that women can do just as much as men on an equal level. But of course, outside of that, the aspect of it that women expect that they should be more than entitled. Entitlement is not in the equation, especially in relationships. It should never be added into the equation. You either respect each other, get along with each other, and if you intend to live long with each other without doing each other wrong, even in the adultery sinful aspect, or if you've lost love for each other at any given point because you don't feel like you're being entitled, women women are the mostly ones that want to be the aspect of entitlement. I'm not saying the majority of them, not all. Of course, I know there are women out there that will be more than logical and more than realistic and reasonable, as long as they're not done wrong, as long as they're not beaten, and as long as they're not, anything else that's negative. But the same goes for the men as well as the women, even on the beaten and done wrong and cheated on adultery aspect, vice versa. I'm being honest there. So, Gavin, you have till the end of this month, being April. Thereby, I put out that everybody puts out a petition to get Gavin Newsom to have a metaphorical torch under his ass, to where he actually gets his ass moving, unless the letter that I wrote to him gets his ass moving. Because what I said in that letter, besides of what I already mentioned, is more than substantial and more than logical and more than realistic. Whether it's being read to him page by page, I'm not going to say how many pages though, but it's not a whole stack. I can tell you that. But if he doesn't get his butt moving, I may even do an early base to where he is called out of office. Thereby, that one person that was running in the Republican Party of things can easily put his foot in the door to where he would be the one to run this country, not one to run this state in substitution. Then when the next governor electoral aspect comes into play again, he will be able to put his foot in the door for that. The Republican one that lost against GAB. But he will be a substitution to Gavin's administration. Then eventually, again, as I said, it would easily go to that point where he would be able to put it into the full entirety. Now, Nancy Pelosi, not too long ago, about a week or two ago, that she was outraged that the investigation when it came to Trump and the Russia situation, when it came to his so-called deals with Russia, that that Trump was cleared of all illogical and various things that would harm his presidency. He was completely more than 100% clear of that. Was that okay with the Democrats? Was that more than agreed upon by the Democrats, namely Nancy Pelosi? The answer to that is no. The answer to that is that liberals have been trying to dumbfound Trump from the very beginning because they still cannot handle the fact that their party lost the 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 grasp of the golden rod known as the White House, the golden rod of power over this country, the golden rod that would even help them turn this country into a socialistic country to where the American people's rights and freedoms are completely taken away. The current Constitution is ripped apart piece by piece, starting with the Fourth Amendment, in which Hillary wanted to do. And then it would be rewritten after the original Constitution is torn to shreds. They would be rewriting it to the liberal standards and what they want, and we American people would have to go by, even if it was illogical and non-realistic. Thereby, we would have to kiss their fucking asses. We'd have to kiss the liberal fucking asses just to get what we want, instead of it being freely established like the forefathers put out. But will the liberal Democrats, even Nancy Pelosi and Barbara Boxer and Dianne Feinstein, tell you that being an actuality? No, because they don't like the truth. They're afraid of the truth. They don't want to hear what's really going on in reality. They want to make their own little reality, their own little world, their own little aspect of realism. Wake up and smell the fucking coffee, liberal idiot Democrats and Nancy Pelosi and Barbara Boxer and Dianne Feinstein. You cannot get what you want, regardless if you're female or any other type of species. The way things are the way things are. Deal with them, liberals. I used to support you until the fact that I found out what you were really about versus the way things were in the Democratic Party under JFK. JFK, and I'm going to tell you straight out, again, JFK was a Democrat, but he had Republican values. Nobody sees it the way I do, though, which is understandable. But the basic fact is, he did have Republican values. He did things for and about the people. He was in the presidency and the White House for the American people and this country. He cared. He had an actual heart. I can't say that about the current the current Democratic Party, because all they think about is themselves. All they want is things for them. They don't want things for the American people. They don't want things for our youth. They don't want things for this country that are positive, that benefit them all in one. They want only things because they were hurt in some way outside the political aspect of the venue of things. So they want to try to torture. They want to make us pay for the things that were done wrong to them on any level and any factor. When really they need to learn to deal with it. We American people learn to deal with a lot of things, even if we don't want to. But we learn to strive from that and build from that to where we can be better still within ourselves. And those who are not able to, I can help you with that, with the logical psychiatry aspect of stuff. Yes, I have a page known as Logical Psychiatry on Facebook, and as well as I made a number of videos on that aspect. Not a whole lot, as much as I have C.R.P.H.A here, but it will get to that point eventually. but I know psychology a lot more than people realize. So Nancy Pelosi, Barbara Boxer, Dianne Feinstein, and Joe Biden, who used to be respected but no longer is. Joe Biden, you as well as Bernie Sanders need to realize that the liberal Democrats are nothing but little bitch, whiny, crybaby dumbasses who only want things because, oh, they can't have them. And then when they get them and they fucking screw shit up, as Obama did. I respect every person on this planet outside of the political venue. I respect them because, one, every one of us are Heavenly Father's children. But when it comes to the political venue, fuck no. The Liberal Party used to be good, equally as good as the Republican Party. And again, that was during the JFK days. But then what screwed it up was the one that I respect under that's supporting Habitat for Humanity, which is, of course, Jimmy Carter. He screwed things up for this country. In why? In which made it to where people went for President Ronald Reagan, which was an actor many years before. Which was also Ronald Reagan was also the governor of California under the Democratic symbol. He didn't do anything that was negative to the state. Neither did Pete Wilson. Neither, well, actually, Gray Davis did. It did lead to an economic downfall in the state of California. He did cause a lot of negative things. Gray Davis did, of course, yes. And of course, the actor, in who I respect as an actor, when Arnold Schwarzenegger was the governor of California, he screwed things up because he wasn't too well known or well versed on how to appropriate things within to be a governor for the state of California that would have more than one of many responsibilities. But I respect Arnold Schwarzenegger as an actor because he's made some awesome movies. One of them being Terminator 1 and 2 and Eraser, Kindergarten Cop, among others. Of course, he made ones that I have not seen until they became a TV movie, which was between I think the mid to late 70s or so like that. And who starred, of course, alongside with Jim Belushi's SNL's Jim Belushi's brother, John Belushi. And who later became on to According to Jim. Anyway. But Jerry Brown screwed things up for California. Made things way worse for California. And made California look like a bad seed. More than, hell, even larger than a bad seed. And especially when he used his personal vendetta against Trump by even turning this state of California into a sanctuary state and allowing the city of San Francisco, California, into a sanctuary city. Then he went over to the points of saying, "Well, I support the our youth, and I want what's best for our youth. So that's why I'm putting through through the legislation of Prop 39 for the for our youth's education in the state of California." Then as it was about to pass under that particular labeling, He went behind closed doors. Jerry Brown went behind closed doors. Changed it from the school funding to his high tax plan by using a legislative loophole. Thereby, also, that was many months, about a year and a half or so before and after the fact that he announced about the high tax. That even after the fact that many Californians, even the California Republican Party, said it was a bad idea. The high tax plan was a bad idea. It would do things more than that would harm the state of California and its citizens along the way on many different aspects of venues and levels. And they were not wrong. But did Jerry Brown fucking care or even take heed to that? No. No, he did not. Thereby, also, that shows, again, that liberal Democrats don't give a damn about the American people, even the citizens that they are governing in the state of California, New York, various other areas that are being governed by the liberal Democratic dumbasses. Yes, you can tell I'm passionate because I know what I say to be true. And also, is still being thought that, even by the liberal media, that Nancy Pelosi has full control of what's decided and what's done through the Democratic Party. And logically, the only way that can happen is if the liberal dumbasses that are males in the Democratic Party allow that. You might as well rip your balls off and give it to her by letting her put them in her purse while you're in office. Gavin Newsom might as well do the same thing. Jerry Brown already did that years ago. But even then, when Jerry Brown did it, she wasn't really seen as the one that has more say so over what's been done within and through the Democratic Party, as much as it's been said in this part of the century. And many people will say it's equal fairness for women. It's not. It has nothing to be with equal fairness for no gender. It doesn't matter if you have the feminist movement of the millennium or the feminist movement of the 1970s. There's no base of equal fairness on that aspect at all. There's no the base of equal fairness is not even in existence when it comes to that, especially when it connects with politics. So not even the feminists and even the Me Too movement idiots can say, it's equal fairness for women. Yeah, the men have to deal with that. Even if they don't want to, we women have had to deal with a lot of things that we didn't really want to, but we were taught to in the 1940s, 20s, and 30s to start with. So now we want more equal fairness than what we were given in the 1970s by the ERA. Because that's not enough for them now, is it? They were given more than equal fairness through the ERA. They were given more than rights to vote, even though in the 1900s they were given the right to vote, even though I know the government may have ignored that at some point or another in between the change of the centuries. But the ERA did give them back their right to vote, the women's right to vote. They did give the women a chance to work in the working world. They did give them equal fairness. They did give them practically everything that's logical. But is that enough? Obviously not. They want to be like us men. They want to have the same base of equal pay, the same level of equal pay, which will eventually bankrupt the whole entire base of the economic stature. Because that's a whole new ballpark for one. Two, it's not economically sound. It's the other aspect of it is that aside from the many centuries that men have done more of the heavy handling work, more than women have in the working world, or even been able to give within their abilities. And their abilities are not in question. The women's abilities are not in question. They've never been in question. They've never been in question at all. All right. But the basic fact is that women have a certain level of strength and know-how and what they're able to do without hurting themselves, without putting themselves in any harm at all. But with that goes along with the fact that of why they're paid to the percentage they have been paid. But yes, as time goes on, the pay rate goes up due to the economic aspect of the cost of living. But that does not go to the point to where women are seen as any lower of a gender than the men. C.R.P.H.A. and I alone have always seen the genders like this on an even equal level and standing. Society may not see it that way, but I do. Don't worry about society. The best thing to do is do not worry about society's ways of thinking, especially when it comes to the employment aspect, especially when it comes to the economic aspect. But the one thing is, you got to realize what I said earlier about the about it being a new thing. It's an actuality. It may not become a new thing as years go on, but there's ways to circumvent things without completely screwing up things economically. But we have not gotten to that point, ladies. We may not get to that point for a good number of years. Who's to say when? It may be before your lifetime, and it may be before. I mean, like after our lifetimes, essentially, after your lifetime and after mine. It may be even beyond that point. But who's to say again? But suffice it to say, there's always ways things can happen to where things are more as what the feminists of today think would be fair. But the basic fact is that it can't be to the points where women go into the points of the matriarchal society. And yes, there was a matriarchal society where women had the aspect of like the female dominated society. But yet the feminist movement is doing it in such a way that they want it back. And in actual logic and reality and realistic aspects, it will never come back. The matriarchal society is long gone, and it will remain as such no matter what. And it's not to say that the male dominated society is not going to become more than equal fare even in the eyes of society, but things do take time. Even when and if the females of this generation especially, and the generations before this generation are not willing to see that, are not able to see it. But I'm being honest. So generally, the feminist movement and the Me Too movement of today is there's no reason for it. There's no reason for women to be materialistic either. There's no reason for women to be feeling that they're entitled. Because the entitlement aspect, especially in marriage, is not in existence. And those who put it as if it is are not really doing any better for themselves as well as the relationship and the spouse, whoever it may be. And also, the women are not doing any favors for them or their spouse, even in the spiritual aspect of things. When it comes to the aspect of entitlement, if you allow that into the factor of the marriage and the relationship in general, you're not doing yourself any favors or any better spiritually. And of course, I know not very many people are looking at on that aspect when it comes to spiritual, especially even for what people would call the greater good, which basically the greater good is only a moderate point to it at this at any given point, really. But the greater good always goes into play somewhere. It's like the bouncing ball of the old Pong game, if you want to put it that way. But as long as both sides are respected and looked upon equally by both the female and male, or the male and female, or equally on that same aspect, on the same level, then everything should be okay. There's no, then the aspect of materialism is gone. The aspect of entitlement is non existent, and everybody would be able to live long, happy lives together with children, and the children wouldn't have to worry about living in a single parent home, in which Tom Likas has talked about more than one time. Every person has talked about it more than one time. And that single parent thing goes also when it comes to the father, where the mother has to pay and does visitation. And then, even though the court system is mostly, more often than not, favored for the female, where the father has to pay and has visitation aspects when it comes to the child or children. Now, think about that though. Without the separation of families and without the aspect of entitlements, materialism, adultery, and and where everybody's viewed and created and treated equally within the relationship. There's no worries about mothers become single mothers, fathers become single fathers. And the whole thing to where things would be able to be where the way they were before, where man and woman are able to live together and be happy together as our grandparents once were many moons ago, or even more than many moons ago, depending on the the variable distance of years and centuries and what have you else. I know that's a lot to muster, isn't it? A lot to think, but it's truth and logic. spiritually as well as realistically and logically. So Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein, and Barbara Boxer need to realize they cannot get their way. The Liberal Party has to deal with what's given to them, what cards they play. And you need to realize that in order to get what to get into a particular base of power, you got to be realistic, logical, like JFK was, without the base of war either. If you can even get to that point. But the one thing is, you got to also think about other people besides yourself. You got to think about the beneficial aspects of and for the American people and our youth, and the futures for both as well as the country and the future of this country. So, so until the Democrats wake up to realize that realism, among other things, they will never be able to be respected fully. They will never be able to be looked upon as positively as JFK is and was. They've lost their footing, as I've said many times, and they haven't found it yet. Even after them trying to get Trump in some sort of political trouble that would affect his presidency, they're so wrapped up in trying to get him out that they can't even see anything what's in front of them, especially as John Cena says, "You can't see me." I respect John Cena, but the basic fact is this right here is exactly what's happening to the liberal Democrats. They can't see what's really happening in front of them. They can't see the aspect of reality. All they want to see is what they want to see within their minds. Their mentally demented little pissant minds. And they're acting upon that, which is not really doing any better for this country. It's not doing any better for them. It's not doing any better for their party in the long run. It's not doing any better for the youth or the American people, along with this country all in one. But do they want to admit that? No. Because they, as I've said many times before, think and know or think that if they admit the truth, oh, we will lose support. The more they don't wake up to reality and realize of what I said and even the other things I've said that even connect to this in this video, then the more they will lose support and voting aspects from the American people and by the American people in the actions of and done by the American people. But until the liberals realize even that, they will not ever have any respect or even receive any true logical respect because they can't because they refuse to respect and consider and have any beneficial aspects and anything else to and for the American people in this country and our youth in this country and the futures for all, starting with the American people, our youth, and this country. That is the truth, and I am not about to change that. If anybody has any naysay to say about that, believe me, you'll be wasting your time because you will not be able to win. Because what I have said, I've researched, I've thought through, I have experienced more than people realize. And with that, it's come to an aspect of actuality and realism and logic. Many people don't realize the things that I know, the things that I've said, and if they don't believe it now, they need to realize eventually they will see what and why I said what I said, and they will realize, hopefully, and I pray this, that I was right. So, and as far as when it comes to GABNet and Alex Bennett, if it's really his real name, the one that considers his show to be professional broadcasting, as I said earlier, which is not. He needs to realize if he wants the true logical fan base and following, even on YouTube, he needs to Alex Bennett needs to realize he can't always go to the back aspect of thinking that he knows more than his people that he talks with on his show via YouTube, and he can't always jump and cut them off and call that respectful when it's not. Right when they're trying to say something and not when they're not done saying something, he cuts them off, and everybody has seen it. Even my mother's friend has seen it. And he will never gain the true logical respect from people by doing that. And I would not be surprised if those same people that he has on his video via his program of GABNet, I will not be surprised if they do not go on there. He'd be like this. I wonder if I'm going to have any more guests. People to talk to and while discussing various issues and topics. Basically, he'd be pretty much by himself. The sadomasochistic jerk off that Alex Bennett he thinks he is a know-it-all. He thinks he's Einstein in general. He's not. Or altogether, he should stop doing it and just believe what he wants to believe within himself, and leave it at that. And don't force people to believe what he wants people to believe to be an actuality when it's really not. Because that's a liberal aspect, a liberal democratic action, and that's socialists. And I will not go for that. And I pray that everybody else, even those who go on his show, will not go for that either. Especially the fact that he thinks he knows it all, and he thinks he thinks he can interrupt them when they're trying to say something, and when they're not even done. Say for example, if I had a number of people on the screen, and we were talking about a particular topic. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be political, non-political. It could be about sports. It could be about cars. It could be about any brand of anything, even health-wise. I know better enough to not interrupt the person while they're talking. But here's the other aspect of it that maybe even Alex Bennett doesn't realize. Even if it does sound like they're finished, that's due to what's known as sound wave effects. They may stop for a second and then start talking again, but you only hear the first half of it, and then you hear a complete silence. Then you think, okay, they're done talking when they're really not. That can happen even on a computer, even on a webcam. That sort of general aspect of sound can actually happen that way. But does Alex Bennett see that, or even realize that aspect, or even really care to notice that aspect? Ooh, he thinks he can just jump in front and say, no, this is the way things are. And then start calling Trump, our current president, the names that he's been calling him. No, that's un-American. I never called any liberal president that I did not agree with any particular name. But the basic fact is, I did say the truth about them. But I did not completely call them what any number of things that Alex Bennett has called Trump. Because I know better. I may have done, I may have said things even while the certain person in the governor's office, I've called him something, but hey, guess what though? Doesn't mean it doesn't mean that outside of politics I don't respect. So generally, you know what I mean? So with that, Alex Bennett needs to either change the way he does his show or stop doing the show. And only agree within himself and within his own demented mind. This is C.R.P.H.A, and I will say that if you want to join in with me in advocating for the developmentally disabled and handicapped and diagnosed disabled and what people still consider, which is illogical, known to be mentally retarded when they're not really mentally retarded. I don't like that terminology. But they are, shall we say, what's the word for it, in special needs anyway. If you want to advocate also when it comes to our youth's education, help me advocate in our youth's education. If you want to help me in the sense of, say, to keep businesses in the U.S. as well as every other state besides California, among others, in the C.R.P.H.A business advocate, um, and also if you want to advocate with me in the sense of the Health Watch advocate of C.R.P.H.A. If you want to advocate with me in the humanitarian aspect of advocating, or the citizen advocate for the U.S. or any state separately, please let me know. C.R.P.H.A. Thank you and have a good day, and may Heavenly Father bless you all. And Trump, I support you. President Donald Trump, I support you, and I will always back you more than 100%. And for those who are serving this country and have served this country, I salute you as well and thank you for your service. In the armed forces, military, army, air force, and marines, and navy, among others, within the U.S. Thank you. Have a good day, and may Heavenly Father again bless you all. And please stay safe.